Hey YouTube, and hey all you free thinkers out there, my name's Camden, this is CamdenTV, and today what I want to discuss with you guys is something that my friend and coworker Jason Everett had brought to me when I did my last video on sort of the nihilistic plague that has infiltrated the minds of our youth, especially in the United States. And I believe it has something to do, at least what he said, is this concept that science is the be-all end-all, and there's the unintended consequence that we just arrived here on Earth by cosmic happenstance, and that belief in evolution and things of that nature have sort of dissuaded people from following any type of religion, any type of concept of a higher power, a higher purpose, and that's why there's so much depression, anxiety, and lack of purpose among our youth and among many generations at this point. The first thing that I would like to sort of point out is this concept that evolution cannot mesh with religion, right? So if you look at the Christian belief system, and you have Adam and Eve, and then you have like the 6 days that all things were created. One of the issues that I have with creationists is that they believe that it was a day, like 6 actual Earth days, when in actuality Earth wasn't even created supposedly until like the 3rd or 4th day. So what constituted a day? A day in the eyes of a god. And for some odd reason, they also believe that God, in his power or its power, has instantaneous responses to things, when that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, right? So if he snaps his fingers, something happens. Is that instantaneous in his world or in ours? And I think that's where it tends to break down, because if you look at something like evolution, you look at, all right, the earth came out of a void. The heavenly bodies were created on like the 2nd day, then day and night, which assuming is the sun. 4th day was like land and plants, and then animals or fish, and then land creatures, and then mankind on the 6th day. So if you think about the theory of evolution and how it's actually broken up, sounds a lot like the creation story, just over a long span of time, right? So it seems as though they can actually come together and make sense together. There does seem to be a war between science and religion that I don't quite understand, in that if you are a science believer, you can't be religious, or if you're religious, you can't be a believer of science. When in actuality, if you look at the core of both science and religion, they all derive from some very early form of philosophy, where you're trying to understand the world, how it is, and like the physics and metaphysics of the universe. And at some point they split off from one another, and they started fighting, and then you have many, like a large portion of all scientists, at least from what has been communicated over the media, or just like in general, tribal knowledge sort of, is that there are many an atheist or agnostic atheists, or something of that nature, whereas your religious types are climate change deniers, or they don't believe in vaccine. Like, if there is a God, then of course they gave us the mental faculties so that we could do science and also establish our own religions and ancient texts, like reading and writing. Right? We didn't just wake up one day and start doing those things, right? It came over a long period of time that can only be explained by some form of evolution or mass adaptation over long spans of time. And this seems to, they're just always at odds with one another, and it doesn't make much sense to me, because they should be able to work hand in hand, right? Because if you think about it, they both function on a similar belief system. scientists or the science community or anybody who is a believer of science, and only science, is a believer in science. You're relying on the scientific method, and you're relying on mankind and humanity to give you some sort of purpose, to give you some sort of answers about how the universe works. Whereas the religious types go to their ancient texts, they go to their community, they go to their pastors, their preachers. They both function on a similar foundation in that they have to be believing on something other than themselves, right? And the science community as a whole is considered like its own. I think it's its own religion, right? It has its own leaders, right? So you've got like Richard Dawkins, or you've got like the evolutionary biologists, or you have like just any major figure in the science community that is communicating to the outside world what their beliefs are, what the, not even beliefs, but what the tested hypotheses and theories are of the world, right? So you've got like multiverse theory, you've got the theory of evolution, you have like quantum mechanics, you have cosmology. You got people saying that the universe is 13 billion years old or something like that. It's like, okay, all right, I can get behind that. But that doesn't mean that there can't also be a higher power that exists. And I had a discussion last night with a friend and colleague about sort of the information era, and what that's done is you have mass amounts of information that has been injected into society, into everyday lives, and people have the feeling that, okay, I just have Google at my fingertips. Let me look something up that may or may not be true and make up my mind about it, without any real wisdom or guidance on the subject. And that's why I think that the moral fabric of our society is breaking down, is that people don't go to church anymore. People don't go and talk to their communities anymore. They don't listen to their parents. They don't listen to their grandparents. They don't have to listen to anyone that may be wiser than themselves, because they can just Google it and make up their own minds. And while that's especially powerful as a tool, where are you going to derive wisdom from? Because it's not knowledge, right? Those aren't the same thing at all. It comes from experience. It comes from understanding and wisdom, which isn't not necessarily knowledge. And so, yeah, I think that there needs to be some sort of coming together when it comes to the science community and the religious community. If we're ever going to continue to make progress towards anything of substance, and I think that's what we got to do, man. We gotta come together, and we got to understand that there's going to be parts of science that are correct and that are incorrect, and there's going to be parts of religion that are correct and that are going to be incorrect. And that we're all human, and we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to follow the wrong people, or we're going to follow the wrong ideas. But if we don't, like, you have some of the greatest minds ever coming out of, religious doctrine. But you also have some of the greatest minds ever that are atheists, and it's just like, why can't we all work together? Like, I don't, it doesn't make any sense to me so I'm an agnostic theist, I guess is what you would call me, right? So I don't know that there's a God, but I believe that there's something higher than just what we have in humanity. And it's like, I can talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, I can talk to Mormons, I can talk to Christians, I can talk to Muslims, I can talk to Jews, I can talk to atheists, and they all have something to offer. They all have insight into the world and how they perceive it. And if we're ever going to hope to make this world a better place, we've all got to come together and just bridge that gap. Bridge the gap between science and religion. And so with that, I hope you got some sort of insight into science and religion and their collision between them. How evolution could be perceived through religion, and hopefully this sparks some conversation to continue in the comment section, which I hope you will. I hope you'll go to the comment section, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. Let me know your thoughts on, how evolution or religion and science play together, and how in the information era we can continue to grow as people, as humans, for the future of our species. And with that, I'll bid you adieu. Peace.